My sister stole my card and spent $133,000 on a Europe trip. My parents said I was selfish for refusing. But when I reported them to the police and the company reversed all charges, it left them in debt and financially destroyed. I'm 29 years old, I work in finance, and what my family did to me a few months ago literally left me speechless. I mean, it's the kind of thing that when I tell people about it, they don't believe me until I show them the actual documents. I guess I should start from the beginning so it makes sense. Because the truth is, my family has always been a bit complicated, let's say. But I never thought they'd go this far. I grew up being the responsible kid, you know, the one who always got good grades, the one who worked since I was 16 to help with my own expenses, the one who went to college on scholarships and student loans that I paid off myself. My younger sister, Samantha, who's 23 now, was always different. I don't know if it was because she's the baby of the family or because she was born like 6 years after me, but my parents basically worshipped her in a way that never happened with me. Like, when I wanted something, I had to earn it, do extra work, prove I deserved it, but Samantha just had to exist, and she already had what she wanted. I got used to it. Honestly, because that's how things are in a lot of families, right? There's always a favorite. When I graduated from college like 7 years ago, my parents gave me dinner at Applebee's and a frame for my diploma. And that's fine. I'm not complaining. I appreciated the gesture. But when Samantha graduated this past May, it took her 5 years to finish a 4-year degree. But that's another story. My parents started planning this massive celebration. My mom wouldn't stop talking about how proud she was, how Samantha had worked so hard, how she deserved something special. I thought, well, maybe they're going to throw her a big party or something. I decided to be the cool older brother and bought her a new laptop as a graduation gift. A MacBook Pro, because I know she liked nice things and she was going to need a decent computer to look for work. I spent like $2,500 on that thing, which honestly was quite a bit for me, but I wanted to do something nice for my sister. I gave it to her at her graduation party and she was super excited. She hugged me, told me I was the best brother in the world. All that. My parents seemed happy too. My dad gave me a pat on the back and my mom said something like, I had always been so generous. This is where things start getting weird. Like a week after graduation, my mom calls me on a Tuesday night. I was at my apartment watching Netflix after work. Nothing special. I answered the phone and she's all excited, talking super fast about how I'm going to love this, about how they're going to make incredible memories as a family. And I'm like, what are you talking about, Mom? And she says, well, we booked a trip to Europe for Samantha as a graduation gift. A whole month visiting like 8 different countries. And you're going to be part of this because we used your credit card. I sat there trying to process what I'd just heard. I said, wait, what? You used my credit card? For what? And my mom, with that voice she uses when she thinks she's being totally reasonable, explains that after I gave Samantha the laptop, she found my credit card in my jacket, which I'd apparently left at their house during the party, and gave it to them. My parents thought it would be perfect to use it to book the trip as a family surprise, and that I obviously would want to contribute to my sister's graduation gift, because I'd already been so generous with the laptop. I swear I had to take the phone away from my ear and look at it because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told my mom, wait, how much did you spend? And she says, like it's nothing. Oh, like $133,000. But it's okay because it's a once-in-a-lifetime trip and Samantha deserves it so much. $133,000. Read that again. $133,000. On my fucking credit card. Without asking me. Without telling me anything until after they'd already made all the reservations. I jumped up from the couch and started pacing around my living room. I was trying to stay calm, but I felt like my head was going to explode. I told my mom that wasn't okay, that they couldn't use my card without my permission, that $133,000 was an absolutely ridiculous amount of money. And she gets all defensive, saying, I'd always been so selfish with money, that Samantha is my sister and I should want to do something special for her, that they didn't have that kind of money available, but they knew I made good money at my finance job, so they thought it wouldn't be a problem. I tried to explain to her that it didn't matter how much I made, that this was fraud, that they couldn't just charge $133,000 to someone else's card. My mom laughed, like a nervous laugh, and said not to be so dramatic, that it's family and family helps each other. I told her I needed to talk to my dad, that this couldn't be happening. She passed me the phone, and my dad tries to sound all calm and reasonable, saying, "Look, son, it's already done. The reservations are made. Samantha is super excited. They're leaving in 3 days. Why don't we just leave it like this, and then we can discuss how to pay for it together?" I hung up the phone and ran to my computer to check my credit card account, and there it was, charge after charge after charge. First-class flights for 3 people because obviously my parents were going to go with her. 5-star hotels in Paris, London, Rome, Barcelona, Amsterdam, Berlin, Prague, and Vienna. Private tours, dinners at expensive restaurants, VIP tickets to museums and attractions. They'd even booked a Rhine River cruise that cost like $15,000 just for the 3 of them. My credit limit was $150,000. He had it high because of my job and because I travel a lot for business, and they'd basically maxed it out. I started reviewing the dates of the charges, and sure enough, everything had been charged in the last 5 days. I started shaking. Not from fear, but from pure rage. I called Samantha directly. She answered all happy. Like, "Hey brother, did mom tell you about the trip? Isn't it amazing?" I said, "Samantha, did you give them my credit card?" And she says, "Yeah, I found it in your jacket and thought it would be perfect for the trip. Mom and Dad said you'd want to help." I asked her if at any point it occurred to her that maybe, just maybe, she should ask me before using my card to charge over $100,000. And she gets all defensive just like my mom, saying I'd always been so stingy, that I was doing well financially and should be happy to do something nice for my little sister. I told her that wasn't the point, that what they'd done was illegal, that it was theft. She laughed and said not to be so dramatic, that we were family. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I was researching my legal options, reading about credit card fraud, trying to understand what I could do. The next day, I called my credit card company and explained the situation. The representative was very kind, but basically told me that since Samantha was family, and technically she had physical possession of my card, even if it was because she found it, it was going to be difficult to prove fraud. He suggested I try to resolve things with my family first. I called my parents and tried one more time to make them understand. I told them they needed to cancel the trip, that this wasn't right, that I couldn't allow this to happen. My mom cried and said they'd already told all their friends about the trip, that Samantha had been planning her outfit for each city, that I was ruining my sister's graduation experience. My dad tried to negotiate, saying maybe we could do a payment plan where they'd pay me $500 a month until it was all paid off. Which, by the way, would take like 22 years at the rate he was proposing. I told them no, that wasn't acceptable, that they needed to cancel everything now. My mom yelled at me that I was a terrible brother, that Samantha was going to be devastated, that she'd never forgive me for ruining this. I hung up and tried to cancel the reservations myself, but everything was in my dad's name, and most things were non-refundable. I felt trapped, completely trapped. 3 days later, they went on the trip, Samantha, my mom, and my dad. Despite everything I said, despite all my attempts to stop them, they simply packed their bags and went to the airport. I was in shock, honestly. I couldn't believe they were actually doing it. Samantha sent me a message before boarding the plane, saying she hoped I'd calm down and stop being so dramatic. They were going to have an amazing time, and when she got back, she was going to bring me a gift to make it up to me. The first week was torture. Samantha started posting photos on Instagram of everything. Her at the Eiffel Tower, her eating at super expensive restaurants, her in luxury hotels with incredible views. Each photo was like a dagger. But what really made me lose my mind was a photo where she was showing off her luggage and had used my credit card as a luggage tag. She'd tied it to her suitcase like it was a trophy, with a caption that said, "Traveling in style thanks to my favorite brother," with a heart emoji. That photo was what made me decide enough was enough. I spent that whole weekend making calls. First, I called the credit card company again and told them that even though they'd said it didn't qualify as fraud, I had not authorized any of those charges and that I was going to report it officially. Then I started calling every airline, every hotel, every tour company that appeared on my statements. Most things couldn't be canceled. But what I could do was contact each place and explain to them that the charges had been made without my authorization. Some of the companies were surprisingly helpful. I put a fraud alert on all future reservations that hadn't been used yet. I contacted the hotels where they hadn't stayed yet and told them I was disputing the charges. I called the airlines and put alerts on the return flights. And then, I did the most important thing. I called my credit card company and told them to freeze my account completely. Nothing else could be charged. Zero. The representative asked me if I was sure, because that meant any pre-authorized charges they tried to process would be declined. I told him yes, I was completely sure, that in fact that was exactly what I wanted to happen. Things started to collapse for them like 3 days later. My mom called me hysterical from Paris saying their card had been declined at a restaurant and it had been super embarrassing. I told her it wasn't her card, it was my card, and I'd canceled it. She started screaming about how could I do that to them, that they were stranded in Europe, that Samantha was crying. I told her maybe they should have thought about that before stealing $133,000 from me. My dad called me the next day, trying to sound calm, but I could hear the panic in his voice. He told me several of the hotels they had booked for the second half of the trip had canceled their reservations because I'd disputed the charges, that the private tours they'd paid for wouldn't let them in because the payments were being investigated, that they were having to look for cheap hostels and eat at McDonald's because they didn't have enough cash to maintain the style of travel they'd planned. I swear I didn't feel a shred of guilt. Zero. Nothing. If anything, I felt satisfied. I told my dad that was exactly what they deserved, that they should consider themselves lucky. I hadn't reported them to the police yet, though honestly I was already seriously considering it. Samantha stopped posting on Instagram after that. Well, not completely, but her photos changed dramatically. They were no longer of luxury hotels and expensive restaurants. One photo was of her eating a sandwich in a park. Another was of a hostel that looked pretty crappy. Her friends' comments started to change too, people asking if she was okay, if something had happened. The situation reached its most dramatic point, like 2 weeks later, when my dad called me absolutely furious. Turns out their return flight had been flagged by the airline because I'd reported the charge as fraudulent. They weren't allowed to board. They had to buy new tickets with their own money. But since they didn't have enough cash available, they had to buy the cheapest tickets possible they could find, which had like 3 layovers and got them home almost 48 hours later than originally planned. My dad yelled at me that I'd ruined Samantha's trip, that she was traumatized, that I'd gone too far. I told him he'd gone too far when he charged $133,000 to my card without permission. I told him to wait, that this was just getting started. Because you know what I did? I went to the police station and filed a formal fraud report. I showed them all the statements. I explained the whole situation. The officer who took my report looked genuinely surprised by the amount of money involved. He asked me if I was sure I wanted to go through with this against my own family. I told him yes, absolutely yes. When my family finally returned to the United States, there were police officers waiting for them at the airport. They didn't arrest them or anything like that, but they detained them for questioning. Apparently it was super embarrassing because there were other people waiting for their families, and everyone saw when the police approached them. My mom sent me like 15 hysterical text messages calling me everything, telling me I was a monster. How could I do that to my own sister? Samantha sent me a long crying message, saying her graduation trip had been ruined, that all her friends had seen what happened at the airport because someone had taken a video and uploaded it to social media, that I'd ruined her life. I responded with a single line: "Give me back my credit card." Like 2 days later, my whole family showed up at my apartment. They didn't call ahead, didn't ask if they could come, just knocked on my door on a Saturday morning. When I opened it, there they were, all three. My mom with red eyes from crying, my dad with that serious expression he puts on when he's trying to maintain control, and Samantha looking absolutely miserable. My mom started immediately saying we needed to resolve this as a family, that things had gotten out of control, that I'd overreacted and needed to apologize. Apologize. Me. To them. I laughed, like a genuine laugh of disbelief, and asked them if they were joking. My dad tried to intervene with his, "let's be reasonable" voice, saying that yes, maybe they shouldn't have used my card without asking, but my reaction had been disproportionate and had caused unnecessary damage. I told them to leave my apartment. My mom started crying, saying she'd raised me. How could I be so cruel to my own mother? Samantha started screaming that I was a terrible brother, that she'd never forgive me, that she wished she didn't have a brother. I told her the feeling was mutual at that moment. My dad tried to block the door when I tried to close it, saying we weren't going to solve anything if I didn't listen. I told them there was nothing to solve, that they had stolen from me, that what they did was illegal and I was simply protecting my finances and my future, that if they didn't leave right then, I was going to call the police again. Eventually they left, but not before my mom told me I was dead to her, that she'd never forgive me, that I'd destroyed our family. Honestly, at that point I didn't care anymore. I was so emotionally and mentally exhausted from all the drama that I just wanted them gone. The following weeks were a long process with the credit card company. I had to provide documentation, proof that I hadn't authorized the charges, copies of police reports. My family tried to contact me multiple times, but I blocked their numbers. My aunts and uncles started calling me too, some taking my parents' side, others quiet but clearly uncomfortable with the whole situation. The credit card company finally determined the charges were fraudulent, considering all the evidence, including the police report and the fact that I'd tried to stop the trip before it happened. They reversed all $133,000 in charges, every cent. When my family found out about that, my dad sent me a long email trying to reason with me, saying now they were in debt with the airline and hotels that were fighting the reversed charges, that they could end up with lawsuits against them, that I'd ruined them financially. I responded that wasn't my problem, that they created this situation and now had to deal with the consequences. It's been like 4 months since all that. I haven't talked to any member of my immediate family. Samantha apparently had to get a real job for the first time in her life because my parents can't give her extra money like before. My mom tells all the relatives that I'm a cruel son who abandoned his family. My dad is quiet about the whole thing. I started therapy because all this definitely affected me more than I want to admit. My therapist has helped me understand that setting boundaries doesn't make me a bad person, that what my family did was financial abuse, that I don't owe them anything just because we share DNA. Some days I feel confident about my decisions. Other days I wonder if I went too far, if I should have handled things differently. But then I remember that photo of Samantha using my credit card as a luggage tag, laughing at me, mocking what they'd done, and the guilt fades. I remember my mom telling me I was selfish for not wanting them to steal $133,000 from me. I remember my dad trying to minimize everything like it was my exaggeration. The truth is, my life is quieter now without them. I don't have to worry about constant family, drama, about ridiculous requests for money, about being treated like an ATM with legs. I've started reconnecting with friends I'd neglected. I've traveled a bit with my own money and my own credit cards, and honestly, I feel freer than I've felt in years. My cousin, on my dad's side, one of the few family members who stayed neutral during all this, sent me a message last week saying Samantha asked about me at a family gathering. Apparently, she asked if I was going to be there for Thanksgiving. My cousin told her she didn't know. Samantha supposedly looked sad and said she missed her brother. I don't know what to do with that information. Part of me, a small part, feels bad for Samantha. She was young, stupid, and clearly my parents spoiled her so much she has no real sense of responsibility or consequences. But another part of me, the bigger part, thinks she's a 2-3-year-old adult who consciously decided to steal from me and then publicly mocked it on Instagram. That's not just immaturity, that's cruelty. As for my parents, honestly, I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive them. They didn't just steal from me, they didn't just justify the theft, but then they tried to make me feel guilty for protecting myself. They wanted me to apologize to them. That shows a level of manipulation and narcissism I don't know if I can get past. So here I am, at 29, basically without a nuclear family. I spend holidays with friends or alone. My career is going well. My finances are better than ever. Ironic, considering everything that happened. And I'm learning to be okay with the fact that family doesn't always mean the people you share blood with. I still wonder sometimes what would have happened if I'd just let them get away with it, if I'd accepted a ridiculous payment plan and kept the family peace. But then I realize it wouldn't have been real peace. It would have just been me, accepting being abused to keep everyone else comfortable. And that's not life. That's just existing to serve other people's needs who don't respect you. My therapist says, I've made incredible progress in establishing healthy boundaries and recognizing my own worth. She says many people in my situation would have given in to family pressure and ended up in debt and resentful for the rest of their lives. I don't know if that makes me feel better or just makes me feel sad for all those people who can't stand up for themselves. What I do know is I'm not going backward. I'm not going to apologize for protecting myself. I'm not going to accept crumbs of respect and call it family love. I've worked too hard for my financial stability and my peace of mind to let anyone, even my own family, take it away from me. Last week I was organizing my financial papers and found the original receipt for the laptop I bought Samantha for her graduation. $2,500 I spent so lovingly, thinking I was being a good brother. It made me laugh in a bitter way. That gesture of goodwill was what gave them access to my credit card in the first place. If I hadn't left my jacket at their house that day, none of this would have happened. But you know what? Maybe I needed this to happen, to really see what my family was like. Maybe it was an expensive but necessary lesson. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe someday Samantha will grow up and truly apologize. Maybe my parents will eventually acknowledge what they did was wrong. Or maybe not. Maybe this is my life now, and I have to be okay with that. And honestly, most days, I am okay. More than okay, actually. I'm building a life on my own terms, surrounded by people who respect me, and that's worth more than any amount of money or any toxic version of family.